Hi, I'm David Muerle with Coldwell Banker, Capital Gateway, and a question a lot of people ask me is, well, should I consider buying an older home? And the truth of the matter is, older homes, construction standards were actually much higher in the 60s, for example, than they were in the 80s. The first home I purchased was built in the 60s, had solid hardwood floors, and under the hardwood floors was a solid wood dovetailed flooring. They don't make houses like that anymore. The house that I moved into that was made in the 80s has just a plywood flooring that squeaks when you walk on it. So a whole different quality of construction. The big consideration when you're talking about old home versus new home is maintenance. And when I bought my first two rental properties, I bought one that was built in the 50s and one that was built in the 90s, and I assumed that the house built in the 90s would have less maintenance, and that actually the opposite was the case. The one that was built in the 50s actually had been remodeled and had all nice new modern stuff in it, whereas the one in the 90s had all builder grade materials in it, and the first thing I had to replace was the air conditioner. The air conditioner broke on me. So my maintenance costs on the newer home were actually higher. So if a home has been remodeled, it actually can have less maintenance costs than the newer home. So that's something to take into consideration. The real consideration on an old home versus old home is really not the age of the home, it's the desirability of the neighborhood. It's the desirability of the neighborhood is what determines the value of the subdivision. Some of our homes in Vacaville that were built in the 70s, they're more valuable than the houses that are being built right now, just because those are the neighborhoods that people want to live in Vacaville. So it's desirability that determines the value of the home, not necessarily the age of the home. But if you're building a home or buying a home that's much older, say one built in the 50s, well, now it's getting old enough that you're going to have to consider replacing the plumbing, replacing the wiring. The wiring built in the 50s, there's no ground wire. And that just doesn't fit our modern lifestyle. The amount of electricity we're using in the 50s is dramatically different than it is today. I bought a home as a flipper that was built in the 50s and ended up having to put in a whole new panel and running all kinds of new wires or new circuits to the kitchen, for example, because when this was built in the 50s, the same circuit that served the bathroom was the one circuit that served the kitchen as well. They just didn't have as many appliances back then and didn't have as much demand for electricity. Well, now you have 4, 5, 6 circuits going to one kitchen. So in order to upgrade it and build a modern kitchen, you have to upgrade the electrical as well. Plumbing, back in the 50s, they were combining galvanized pipe with copper pipe, and that's just not good for the copper pipe. So you may find that you're stuck replacing the plumbing, and that can be a good $10,000 cost. So that's something you have to consider when you're buying a home of that age. And then if you're looking at something that, say, is 100 years old, my daughter bought a beautiful Victorian down in Oakland, and they're going through and replacing the wiring because they discovered there's this old knob and tube wiring in this house. And you can't even get insurance on a house that has knob and tube wiring now. It's so antiquated and so dangerous. If you're, and also with a 100-year-old house, you can go into a bathroom and say, hey, I'm going to replace that toilet, and end up doing an entire bathroom remodel, because when you replace the toilet, then you had to replace the pipe, then you had to replace the floor, and it just goes on and on and on. A 100-year-old house is so antiquated that just a simple remodel turns into a big remodel chore. So those are some things to consider when you're looking at older homes. My name is David Muerle with Coldwell Banker, Capital Gateway. Happy to help you with your real estate needs. Thank you.